Dear Heavenly Father, we ask tonight that you give us wisdom to know what we need to do to help this great city of Manchester. Grant us everlasting love. Help us, Lord, to get home safe. Be with each and every one of us. Be with the sick and shut in the city and everywhere. Lord, we humbly beg this in your name. Amen. By faith and prayer.
Please. Alderman French.
Here.
Alderman Patton.
Here.
Alderman Bellamy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Messick.
Here.
Alderman Nichols.
Here.
Alderman Elam.
Here.
Okay, we have correspondence. We have one card. For the Coffee County Child Care Center. Thank you very much. Okay, this meeting is being conducted by electronic means pursuant to the requirement of Governor Lee's Executive Order 65 and 71, and has been noted as required by that order. Section 1 of Governor Lee's Order 65 strongly urges the city provide an agenda for the meeting in the notice. I need a motion to adopt the agenda which was sent out as part of the meeting notice as suggested by Governor Lee's Executive Order 65 and to suspend any conflicting provision of the Manchester Municipal Code. Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman Elam.
Aye.
Do I hear an approval of the minutes for January the 5th?
I'll make the motion.
Do I hear
Roxanne.
any corrections or additions? All right. French. Alderman Patton.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman. We hear from the committee, Safety Committee,
Nothing to report.
Finance.
Mayor, we had a meeting and we discussed, or actually we voted on it in committee since we're reevaluating our spending freeze, you go ahead and pay the full amount to our nonprofits. We voted on 3-0 out of the Finance Committee. And if this is the proper time, I'd make a motion to do that.
Okay, we'll do that during old business. That's okay with you. Okay, street department.
We had a good meeting. We talked about the dog pound. We got some resolutions here to vote on for that. And we also talked about the fair, what am I trying to say, right away?
Yeah, at Fairground parking lot. So
We voted it down the first time out. Now we're going to have to relook that case. We're going to look at it again next time. So we'll have a street meeting next time, George. You got that? George,
Yes, sir.
our street meeting next time. That same thing again.
Thank you. Water and sewer.
We're not have a meeting this month.
Thank you. Recreation.
We have a meeting next Thursday, February 11th at noon at the Ada Wright Building. And just to let you know, we're pretty busy right now. So basketball has started back up, you know, we've gone back to a lot of our normal operations. And I do want to say that if you'll just be in prayer for Jeff Howe, his father passed away from COVID complications last Friday. So that's sort of a sad thing that we're going through right now, but otherwise, things are doing well.
I'd like to add one thing if I could. First of all, you know, we all love Jeff and he's doing amazing work for the city and just, we're all thinking about him, I'm sure. Secondly, our next recreation meeting is going to be 2 hours long and we're going to discuss budget. And a big thing that's going to be coming up on there is maintenance on the rec center. It's going to be a big dollar we got to look at. And that's all. Thank you.
So where was Jeff's dad? Where did he live? Did he live in Manchester?
No, he lived in Missouri, so that's where Jeff's from, and that's where he's at right now. The funeral is tomorrow, and he'll be back Friday, I believe, that's what he said.
Thank you. Tourism?
I don't have anything to report from our last meeting, but our next meeting will be February 22nd at 5:30.
Planning, zoning?
Our next meeting will be on February 15th at 5:30.
Okay. Information systems?
We did not have a meeting this month.
Thank you. Historic zoning?
We didn't have a meeting last month, but we do have one this week.
Thank you. Okay, we'll turn it over to you. Attorney Buell for resolutions and orders.
All right, Madam Mayor. First thing I have is the second reading of an ordinance amending Title 14, Chapter 6, Section 22, Manchester Municipal Code, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Manchester, Tennessee, to amend that ordinance and zoning map for like the state that's owned by Patricia Faye Farrell, Brian K. Farrell, and Rita Church, be rezoned as C3 commercial from I1 industrial. That's first reading, January 3.
Make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Call roll.
Alderman French,
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Patton,
Aye. Can you not hear me?
Alderman Bellamy,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman Nichols,
Aye.
Alderman Elam.
First reading of an ordinance to amend Manchester Municipal Code 14.5.16 relative to standard signs, billboards, and other advertising.
Make the motion.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Any discussion?
I did want to bring up the discussion on the flags issue. And I want to understand, is it currently written without that information in here? Or has that already been removed, or is it just removed?
Removing the flag. This is, we've taken, the signs can go up, but the flags have to be removed. But I will say on top of this, if I was in the planning commission meeting, and I even second this motion, and I will say that the only person that voted against it was Steve Jernigan. But I made the motion, Mark made the motion, I seconded, but I have had second thoughts. There's not been any complaints about these flags. It's been a tradition in this area, they do a lot of good. So if I had it do over, I would not vote to remove these flags. But it's everybody else's vote.
So how many people does this affect?
One,
Only one realtor does this.
So there was a subcommittee formed out of planning to study signs. They presented their findings to the planning commission. Planning commission voted in favor of all that. And now we're trying to parse one thing out for one person. I'm voting no on this.
So, there's only one, flags that go on the signs like I've seen flags, so it's not just one person. is that what you're talking about, like advertisement signs or like auction signs or election signs? Because I've seen them put American flags out on those before.
Now, this doesn't have anything to do with American flags.
I understand, but flags are flags. I mean,
Well, no,
are you gonna
there's
say it's
a
okay
section
to
in
do?
there. There's a section in there that talks about American flags, specifically. Put an American flag anywhere you please to put one. All this does, and it doesn't say flags, it says attachments. But that could be anything, I mean, and it did go through the sign committee. It was voted out unanimously, it went through the planning and zoning. It was voted out unanimously, and so here it is now.
Is to make all signs uniform. That's how to talk about it, is to make all signs uniform, all auction signs, I think. Is that correct, the way I said that?
So this added wording is, so it states that basically for temporary real estate signs and temporary or just auction signs, it has the wording at the end of both of those sections that says, and no flags or banners shall be attached to the signs. That's the wording that was added in those sections.
Thank you for the clarification.
Hold down and box.
I understand that, but if they've been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years, however long, why all of a sudden now is it an issue that we need to take it from that company? I mean, I understand, but if that's the only one that does it, why is it such a big deal to make that a big deal now? Because it was being fine for the 4 years I've been here before, now all of a sudden it's an issue. It just looks weird that we're going after one real estate company.
We're not going after anyone.
Well, why we brought it up to even do that?
Well, that was brought up in the.
I understand that, but
That's what, we decided to do, we make everything look even. Everybody would have, the signs would be nice and neat, it would be these little droopy ass flags hanging around on them. It would be in the right of way, it would be in the way,
but we've had zero complaints about the
and
signs.
nobody's gonna complain about
Well, then why are we discussing this flags?
it. Well, I mean, y'all,
I understand. I don't want to go against what the planning commission, and we put those people in there, but at the same time, why are we even bringing that up? Why are we redoing it?
Well, because when that sign committee met, they went through the sign ordinance. They went through every piece of that ordinance, not just this. This is one part of many they looked at, which was the entire sign ordinance. And the whole thing is what they came up with based on that subcommittee's review and best judgment passed on to the planning commission, who voted on it to pass it, in favor of it. So it was not any one thing. It's in a broad scope of work that several people put a lot of time into to figure out, that we have not put the time in to figure out. And sooner or later, you have to trust people that work for our government out in these committees.
Both committees voted past this, right?
They did.
Not this wording. This is different. This is changing what those committees did.
Oh, this is not the same as what the committees passed?
Is that correct, James?
The wording that's in the ordinance that Gerald drafted here is exactly what was passed through the sign subcommittee and the planning commission.
So they said take this. Well, now I'm confused.
No banners and flags.
Correct.
And we're saying take the banners and flags out of that, what we're voting on now, right?
No.
No, that's not what we're voting on.
What are we voting on? And
Way it is, way it
apologize to
reads.
all people.
I thought we were voting on the way it reads, right?
You vote on this, the way it's written today, the way it came through the committees. You're voting to take the attachments off of the auction signs.
So that committee left them in there? Is that the thing?
Oh, the committee took them out. This is the recommendation from the committee that we're
Oh,
voting.
man. I thought we'd already voted on that.
We did it once, but that was the whole point of bringing the question up. I didn't present the question. I was different either way. I wanted to hear the discussion on it because I know it was still a lingering issue. If there's an issue with an ordinance, I wanted to hear that for myself. So that's why I asked the question.
You said it's been voted on once. It says it's the first reading. Is that
On this change.
okay? On the change. Okay.
But that's what I wanted to understand is what we're actually voting on tonight. I understand the uniformity of the sign ordinance, if you want those to be consistent. Like I said, it does go both ways. If you add something into an ordinance that only affects one company, I can see that argument just the same as I can see taking it out only affecting one company. So I just want to clarify that. I wanted to have clarification on exactly what we're voting on. Yes.
I want to be specific that no one was targeting any one company.
That's correct.
And what I said alluded to that, that's not at all my intention to say that, so I don't want that.
Does this ordinance change anything else?
It does.
I mean, the whole ordinance, does it
It
change
does, it
anything
changes
else?
a lot of things. It's
Okay.
got, Jamie, you go over kind of.
There was a court case that came out that was Reed versus Town of Gilbert, I believe. And so the main conclusion that came out of that court case was that freedom of speech basically ruled as far as signs go. So we read through most of that court case and tried to do the best we could to tweak the ordinance to accommodate those things. But Attorney Yule, he can explain when we get to the end. There was a section that was added by him, and he can better explain that better than I can. But the main, I mean, there was already an ordinance that passed a couple, well, I guess 4 or 5 months ago that pertained to off-site billboards. These changes, this ordinance changes and looks at the remaining portion of the sign ordinance. I mean, we looked through everything from definitions to adding different definitions that needed to be in there. There was a bunch of cleanup that went on in these ordinance changes. The main changes that occurred were in the temporary sign regulations, just because those are the signs that freedom of speech is usually the most widespread. I mean,
That's more about verbiage than size, though, isn't it? I mean, the city can. I mean, size is one thing, and verbiage on the sign's another. Correct?
Right. Well, we basically changed it to where in residential areas you can have so many signs, and they can only be a certain size, and leave it at that. In your residential areas, you can have whatever sign you want in the yard, but you can only have so many, and they can only be a certain size.
Whatever you want.
Well, this ordinance will kind of streamline everything instead of 4 or 5 different ordinances and 4 or 5 different zones. They're going to be pretty much all throughout except for one zone. It backed off. It put everything kind of together. It made everything kind of level. We're just trying to clean up the looks in the city of Manchester. Make everything legal.
I do appreciate the hard work you guys did. Worked hard. I appreciate it.
Attorney Yule, do you mind explaining the section that was added, please?
The part I added is what's called a severability clause that says if any part of it's deemed unconstitutional, the court wouldn't declare all of this ordinance unconstitutional. That means if there was one line or one application to one type of signs that the court thought was unconstitutional, the ordinance changes would still pertain to all the ones that weren't unconstitutional. Called a severance or severability clause. That's the only thing I added. Just because sometimes courts, when they're hostile to things, they would just say, well, this one unconstitutional thing, we can't tell if the city would have passed it if that change had been taken out. And so we're going to declare the whole thing unconstitutional, and then we go back to square one. This just says if they declare the thing about political signs unconstitutional, the The same, the ones about the flags on the realty signs and the ones about the sizes of other signs can still be valid. Undoing everything you do just because there's one problem. It's actually in the, phrases like that are in the charter and other things. I just put it specifically here just to combat kind of the Reed versus County Gilbert issue. If they determined part of it was unconstitutional, they just wouldn't say, well, this whole ordinance is unconstitutional, because that part of it ruins the whole barrel.
That protects against speech cases, correct? Where
No, the court would determine about speech cases. It keeps a speech case from invalidating
the rest of it, that's what I mean. If
the whole rest of the thing.
Okay.
I don't.
So if they send application to this one particular sign because of speech is unconstitutional, then the rest of the ordinance
Remains. That's, as Vice Mayor Messick said, this deals with a whole lot of things like portable signs, inflatable signs, or something like that, and you know, they don't have to do with the message and likely would not be unconstitutional. They have to do with the construction of the sign and the placement of the sign rather than what's on it. And so you don't want that part to be declared unconstitutional just because there was a little provision about political signs or something that made that single provision unconstitutional. So that phrase just says the court can just knock the part out that's unconstitutional and you get to keep the rest of it.
Your motion?
You got a second and everything, we were in discussion.
Yeah, ready to vote?
Okay. I'll roll.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
No.
Alderman Elam.
No.
Next thing I have, Madam Mayor, is first reading of the ordinance to amend Manchester Municipal Code 10206 regarding boarding and adoption fees and spaying and neutering of impounded animals.
Quick motion.
Any discussion? I'll roll.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
First reading of the ordinance to amend Manchester Municipal Code 10206 regarding impound fees.
Make a motion.
Any discussion?
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Old business, we're gonna review the resolution 2020 regarding the spending freeze on nonprofits. Last time we voted that we'd only give half. And I just feel like, I felt like when I left this meeting, that we just getting the whole, I mean, it was, what did we leave, 30-something thousand out, and, you know, these nonprofits are really struggling. Some of them are not backed by churches. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion, Mayor, to pay 100% the nonprofit. That was a motion and a vote from the Finance Committee, voted 3-0
Thank you.
to reinstate and pay the other half of the nonprofit.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Thank you. New business, any one of your packets, there was a job description for the director's preparation. Had time to look at it. We've gone over this with Hannah.
Mayor, I can't hardly hear you, if you don't mind.
Sorry, I'm speaking to my phone. In your packets, there's a job description for the new director. Bonnie will be leaving June, and so we need to start looking for, sending out applications, taking applications for her replacement. And in your packet, there was a job description made by HR. Sage worked on it, I worked on it, and Hannah worked on it. So, do I hear approval of this job description that we can use to send out?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, there was a line in there that said, what was that about the person had to have some, it didn't really specifically say what kind of a degree the person had. I'd like to add in there the person should have a degree in the field.
It says a BA and BS degree in Parks and Recreation.
Oh, does it? Thank you.
Yeah.
Has that been amended? I'm sorry, I didn't read that, Roxanne. Thank you. Never mind.
Thanks, Roxanne. Any more discussion?
Was that a change? Because the first one didn't have that in there, did it? The first description I got? Has that been added in?
I gave you the latest one.
It went out the packet,
Yeah.
the revised edition that you did.
And it says a BA or BS in education?
It says a
It says
BA.
BA in Parks, BA or BS degree in Parks and Recreation with 5 years of experience.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Any more discussion? Do I hear a motion to approve this application,
Make a motion.
this job description?
Oh, we already got a motion, right?
Okay.
Got a motion in a second.
Alderman French,
Aye.
Alderman Patton,
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy, Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman Nichols, Alderman Elam.
Okay, we're looking for another member to be seated on the new PBA, the Manchester PBA. And it is the mayor's appointment to take it to the board to be approved. And I am bringing to the board Holly Jones. I was impressed with her application and her resume, and I put Holly Jones on the table for approval.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
In discussion? Call roll.
Alderman French,
Abstain.
Alderman Patton,
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy, Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman Nichols, Alderman Elam.
All right. Okay, I'd like to say before we go to the rest of the items from the other board, the other aldermen to weigh in, I'd like to thank the street department for working on a project on City Hall, converting all the lights to LEDs. So it just goes to the street department. Okay, Ron, do you have anything to say?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, I just think they're doing a good job. Our employees.
Absolutely.
I want to thank the people at the animal shelter. If there's anybody in the city who's got a thankless job, that's those people there. And they do a wonderful job. Congratulations, y'all.
Bill?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for your work on Interstate Drive and working through some of those issues.
Ditto.
Roxanne?
I agree with what Bill said. Yeah.
I'd like to close out by saying we've got a new president and new vice president. And however you voted, if you're a Christian, you have to believe 1 Corinthians 2, 1-5, that we pray for those in authority and those in leadership, and just keep our president and those our leaders up. And I'm looking forward to a great year this year. And with that, I say we're adjourned.
Thank you.